Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani alongside Kyle Galdera, Paul Brecht back in studio, and this is the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. Again, special live stream and special show hours for the remainder of this week as Kyle and I are broadcasting from the beautiful stadium swim at the Circa Resort and Casino. It's a gorgeous day in Las Vegas, and this time I'm going to wait to actually show you the pool cam because it's just a very, very funny photo of Pat McAfee. People there. Like now we've got the, fortunately it seems like our cameras and everything are going to work today for all of you, and we will be a smooth sailing, knock on wood, for the next 3 hours. Of course, you can anticipate a little cutting out here and there, but for the most part, we figured out our multicam. Now we can show you guys the pool, and I hope you can kind of see it on camera there with the steam coming out as we are set up in one of the at Stadium Swim there as we were yesterday, so you guys can go and listen back to that show. But yeah, it's going to be a packed show today. In a little bit, we're going to talk some HPU men's basketball as the Sharks were in action last night, coming out with the dub, and we'll hear what head coach Jesse Nakanishi had to say post-game as Paul Brecht had a chance to catch up with him in there. But the fun thing is that we have a couple of pretty awesome guests coming over to join us in person right here on the couch that we have in the cabana. We have Dr. Michelle Coyner. She is going to join us in about 45 minutes or so. She is coming over. She is the assistant professor in residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and Professional Sport. Also serves as the director for the undergraduate of sociology and hospitality. But probably the most intriguing thing, Kyle, is that he is a gaming and economic development expert. And we mentioned this yesterday. He had a hand in the research that brought the Oakland Raiders here to Las Vegas. So I am very much looking forward to both our guests that are going to join us from UNLV today.
Yeah, and we were talking before the show, Ku'ule, about if we could only get these two guests and probably many more throughout the week to come to Hawaii, maybe on a sabbatical or a work trip, and tell our local, especially lawmakers, about some of the opportunities that we've been talking about for years on this show and we'll talk about this week.
Before we really dive in and get our sports show started, though, I need to for sure send a very happy birthday out to my beautiful grandmother, Liz Agbayani. Shout out, Grandma. Happy birthday. 86 years young today.
Wow.
So, Grandma, I always joke because I talk about how when I drive, I am a very cautious driver, and I always joke that I drive like a grandma. But then I think about my grandma, and my grandma has gotten pulled over for speeding more recently than I did.
Wow.
So it's just going like 75 and like a 45 or something. I'm like, all right, I can't say that I drive like my grandma because clearly she drives a bit fast.
So that's funny because you know how they have those speed cameras now, or actually red light cameras that now double as speed cameras?
Yeah.
My mom actually got one of those notices in the mail, like a warning, from like 8 months ago, going 38 into 35 or something. I had to remind her, hey, Mom, slow down in the school zone, will you? She was loving it because she always tells me to drive safely, and I'm the one reminding her, just like your grandma.
That's what happens, I guess. Anyway, so, yeah, day 2 here in Las Vegas at Stadium Swim. I want to remind you guys that if you are making the trip to Las Vegas, join us tomorrow evening here at Circa Resort and Casino for a meetup it's basically the high LV After Dark. I'm calling it the After Dark thing just because we're going to have the basketball game to watch. You know, like how they have the Pac-12 After Dark and all of that stuff. So we have a late night men's basketball game tomorrow night here in Las Vegas, 9 p.m. tip-off time here for the UH men's basketball team versus Arizona State. We're going to be watching it at the Overhang Bar at Circa Resort and Casino. We're located on level 2 and overlooks the massive sports book here. And then before that, though, we will have at 7 p.m. we will be up at the Legacy Club, which is the top of Circa. And so we'll kind of mosey on down to the overhang around 8:30. So whichever one you guys want to join us for, we encourage you to come out. And then if you really want to start your party early, Kyle, tell our listeners and viewers who are coming here to Las Vegas or who are here or making the trek and will be here in time tomorrow evening how they can start their party even earlier before 7 p.m. at Legacy Club.
So this is a really cool promotion that Derek and his crew have done. So the Golden Gate, which is, if you look at our scenic camera, is right across the street toward the strip from Circa. So you basically just get to the bottom floor, walk about 10 feet across the street, and Golden Gate from 6 to 7 p.m. every night, they have open bar and free play. So basically you get in line, you get a coupon for either $5 all the way up to $1,000 of free play credit to use when you're gambling, and all you can drink from 6 to 7 p.m. So, of course, tip your bartenders, make sure to take care of the crew, but you get all the drinks you want, and then you continue the party. So why not? It's a triple threat.
Some people, even if they're not driving, some people, sometimes like myself, if you just run into the people you don't want to.
That's a good point. There are quite a few people in town.
I'm like give or take, right? Like I'm either like lovable, like drunk coo that's like, I love you guys. Oh my gosh, you guys are so awesome. Or if it just takes the wrong person that I see and I'm like, then the crazy Filipina comes out, and then I don't know. Then it's like 0 to like 100 in like that once I see. So we want to keep the lovable crew that will be there tonight. So.
That is a good way to put it. Well, be responsible, have fun, and like we said, the triple threat tomorrow. You can't beat that.
All right. Well, again, we're here following all the odds. Kyle, I don't know. What did you do last night? I honestly did not. Speaking of drinking, I did not even drink anything yesterday. I was so tired catching up on sleep, but at the same time, again, I barely got any sleep. I took a little bit of a power nap around like 4 o'clock, and then I woke up thinking it was like 10 because it was so dark and gloomy outside because of the weather.
Right.
And I know minutes or something. And then I guess I was just so excited to talk to all of you again that I went to sleep really late. I didn't really even eat any dinner. I was just trying to catch up on sleep. And I just couldn't sleep. And now we're here, so we'll see how it goes. But I was very responsible last night. Didn't even play anything. Still need to cash my tickets. But what were you up to last night?
So kind of same thing. I think our listeners realize that I literally got off the plane and came straight here in time, maybe 5 minutes to spare before the show. So I'm glad I made it. Only slept for 2 hours on the flight. So, of course, I caught up on sleep as well. But we actually did take a drive down the Las Vegas Boulevard Strip just to see the F1 track before they shut it down at midnight last night. So that was really cool. I got some pictures. Maybe I'll share that on social media later. But checked out the strip a bit. The rain was kind of spooking some locals out. They had never seen rain that heavy and hard before. But good night. We actually had a great Reuben sandwich down as usual, and then just got ready for the show today. So should be another fun broadcast. And we only have a couple more days before the big game on Friday night.
I am glad that you brought up F1 because I didn't completely forget about it. I saw a lot of video last night. I saw how wet the track was and everything, and some of the accounts that I follow that like Las Vegas locally. And yeah, like how did that kind of look in person? I'm hoping I get to see it. I think Friday when I make my way down to the strip. Well, I guess I'm actually going down to the strip tonight, but I haven't seen it yet. So does it look pretty awesome in here at this time? But if you're like taking that part out of it and you're just looking at it for what it is, like we're going to talk about sports tourism and all of that and just how cool it is, how Vegas is like the sports hub now, adding F1 here a couple of years ago, the Super Bowl last year, all of that stuff. But how does it look? Like, how does everything look out there in the strip?
So if you're familiar with the strip, basically you have 3 or 4 lanes on each side and then that median with trees. So they've put up even more concrete barriers with protective fences on top of that. So it's almost like I don't want to call it like a prison wall, but basically a high fence to protect the cars if they were to go off track. And they actually have these cool little monitors that were flashing like water drops, letting the drivers know that the track is wet. And then they have markers saying, 200, 150, 150. So basically, part of the strip is part of a big oval that goes through here in Vegas into a racetrack. And we talk about sports tourism in Vegas, right? What kind of place other than Vegas would be that creative? I know, F1 goes to Miami, Dubai, around the world, but just to transform an iconic roadway like the Strip into a racetrack is, really creative.
Yeah, because it does, if you haven't watched it on television for the last couple of years, it actually does look really cool, especially with the sphere out there, and they have kind of like the F1 and some of the sponsorships on the sphere, and then they're I think one of the turns kind of like goes, they had like, I don't know if they had it on the actual race day. So race day is on Saturday. They do have like the test runs. I think there's one that is today and tomorrow, and they have all these parties and stuff that are happening starting tonight. And but I know I saw some of the practice videos last year or the first year, and they put like the big happy face on the sphere, and you got the car zooming by, and then they had it where the happy face is doing like the eyeball thing and like make the emoji face, and he's like woo. So it's really cool. They really did it up. And speaking of the sphere, have you been there yet? I forget. You did, right? That's right.
So
when we were here
2 years
time.
ago for the last trip, and I always joke because Rich Miano and Kano'olehi were calling the game for Spectrum, so I was working with them. After the game, apparently Rich Miano had tickets to the U2 concert, and he had called 3 or 4 friends, and they couldn't make it. So I was like, we joke, I was like his 4th date that night. and I finally Rich and I went, we saw U2. Not only is U2 amazing, even though honestly, they played some of their new stuff. It wasn't that great, but I love their old stuff, so that was awesome. But just the sound, and if for those of you in Hawaii, if you can remember, it basically wraps around, so even when you look straight up, you're looking at a screen. It's just an immersive experience that I think now they're playing like Wizard of Oz, where they've taken the Wizard of Oz movie, but put in like actual wind and rain and sound. So it's a really cool experience if you can. I know tickets are a little pricey, but I also know I have classmates that are going to go up in January for Backstreet Boys. And they've been, going back to when we were in high school and the Backstreet Boys were actually new back then. It's kind of a nostalgic thing where even No Doubt is coming next summer. So for people of our age and maybe a little older, there's a lot of throwback concert opportunities that are going to be coming through the Sphere.
I did go to Backstreet Boys in the Sphere. When I was up here for Mountain West Media Days, I did go to, and this is my 3rd time seeing the Backstreet Boys in Las Vegas. It was awesome. So like how you were putting it, like just imagine even that's an understatement of how it looks when you're there in person, because before I went in person I saw videos and I saw some stuff now of Wizard of Oz, but when you're there it's basically 4D is what they have for Wizard of Oz. Like they have wind blowing through there when she's going through like the tornado, and all like even leaves blowing, I think, for Wizard of Oz.
They have little foam apples that when they go through past the apple trees and the wind blows, they kind of fly at you. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's a bunch of stuff. I really hope I really wanted and hoped I would have had time to go see Wizard of Oz, but I don't. But yes, I went to see Backstreet Boys, and that was pretty cool. So a lot of stuff that it's just like they're just adding more and more stuff. Obviously, the baseball team, potentially a basketball team coming here soon to Las Vegas as well. So it is really interesting, especially for Hawaii people and people like ourselves who have been coming to Las Vegas for so long to see. I mean, even this property right now, it's the newest built ground up property in downtown. Right, Derek Stevens does have a couple of other hotels as well. The D was a previous hotel, and then Golden Gate, another hotel. But Circa is like the newest ground-up hotel in downtown, probably the only one that we'll see for a while here. I know the Strip, they imploded the Tropicana now, and where the baseball stadium's going to go, and then the Mirage is going to turn into the Hard Rock with the giant guitar. But it is pretty incredible to see what Derek was able to do here and make this beautiful hotel that we get to enjoy with the largest sportsbook in Las Vegas, with Stadium Swim that we get to overlook here, and it's been incredible. And we hope to get Derek on sometime this week is what we were told, or he's kind of busy. You know, just a little bit.
He's only a 3 casino owner and successful businessman.
I know he's always on VSiN like every day, and depending on what show, keeping updates with the Circa Survivor, Grandissimo, Circa Millions, all of that stuff. So we were hoping we'll get him on tomorrow or Friday to talk story with us, because he did a couple of years ago, which was really fun. And yeah, maybe I joked he can't give you any bad, give you any crap for the Lions on Thursday and the Packers, which would happen 2 years ago.
So the joke with that, for all of our listeners that maybe missed it, is that same trip 2 years ago, the Packers were playing the Lions on Thursday Night Football, and Derek invited me down. He has a little area in the overhang bar where he basically, invites all his friends and coworkers, which is cool, by the way. A lot of bosses won't do that with their employees, but he welcomes them to come drink and eat with him. And basically, we were watching the Packers get destroyed by the Detroit Lions, and he just kept looking at me like, how about those Lions? Yeah, because he knew I was a Packers fan. But other than the Packers losing, it was an awesome experience.
You got to take advantage, and you had free drinks, so
yeah,
it's okay.
I lost track of how many high noons I had, for sure.
You're drinking away your sorrows. Hopefully that's not how we're handling it on Friday.
Right.
Hopefully it's a fun party on Friday night for sure, even tomorrow night. Hopefully UH men's basketball takes care of business against Arizona State that we're watching here at Overhang Bar. And then, of course, the big game, the reason why a bunch of people are coming into town, UNLV football on Friday. Yes, Friday. Don't forget, 5:30 p.m. kickoff time back home in Hawaii. 7:30 p.m. kickoff here in Vegas, and you can watch it on FS1. All right, before we go to break, I want to say a shout out to Oz from Sunnydale, saying that our studio looks beautiful. Thank you. Yes, has the rain let up? And do you know the weather forecast for Friday? And then he asks, "Oh, is the stadium covered?" Yes. So fortunately, we have no worry when it comes to the actual football game and fans that are going to go in attendance because it is covered. So we don't need to worry about the rim, and it's a cool, maybe 60-ish degrees or so out there.
Right now it's 52 degrees, a little bit of overcast, but not too bad.
Yeah.
And like we said, the pools are heated, and you can, if you look at that view, you can see the steam coming off the pool. They're about, I think, 90 degrees. So very comfortable if you want to come take a dip here at Circa Swim.
Yeah, again, open 365 days out of the year. Stadium Swim is. And yesterday they did have to close the bottom for a little bit just because of the weather did get a little crazy. But for the most part, it'll be open. Even with snow, they keep it open. The pools are heated. So if you guys just want to take a dip like Kyle is going to, hopefully by the time the week is done. And by
do we have the headphone extensions?
I think I do.
Okay, we're going to make it happen.
If anything, we will give you just the hand mic, and I will yell for you to talk and then show you in the pool. I think that we can make happen.
I can't wait.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will get back into some local sports and talk some HPU men's basketball and hear from head coach Jesse Nakanishi to see what he had to say following their win last night, their home opener at the Shark Tank on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera. Live from the Ninth Island on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760. And streaming live on hawaiisportsradio.com.
Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera. Yes, live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino. Going to get into some basketball talk now. Getting you caught up with some of the things going on happening back home. Before we get to that, though, with basketball in mind, congratulations, Kyle, for winning your bet yesterday, as well what he was advising me to bet, because I'm an Orlando Magic fan, and you were advising to take the Magic. I think it was like plus 12 and a half or something.
They're actually plus 3.5.
Oh, okay.
And at
well, they
game
won straight
time,
up.
It went down to 2, and they did win by, I think, 10. So
yeah,
that was a good one.
Yay. And what did you do with those winnings?
So, of course, we rolled it over to what we talked about yesterday, the Hawaii UNLV over, and a second after that went in, the line went from 64.5 to 65. So, like we advised you yesterday, if you do want to jump on it, get it now, because I'm predicting that's going to go up to probably 67 or 68 before kickoff on Friday.
Look at Kyle with the sharp money moving the line. I love that. But yes, it's ticking up. That just reminds me, I still need to cash my tickets and probably roll some of that. Maybe I'll take all of the Hawaii winnings that I have for the over win total and that Stanford game, and then I'll do kind of what you did and just take that winning and keep rolling it and then put it on the over. And then when I put that in, then it'll shoot up.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing like Kool-Aid sharp money there. In all seriousness, you guys know I'm a baby better, but we just have fun with it anyways. All right, getting back to some basketball. Again, the Sharks were in action last night, beating St. Martin's 88-75. Before we hear from Jesse Nakanishi, and I know Paul Brecht can chime in here, he was covering the game last night, and you can check out his entrance they got going on there in the Shark Tank. So that was pretty cool to be posted. They had like some lightsaber looking things they turned off the lights in the previously St. Francis High School gym, and it was dark, and like Paco Loco is going all out, what that usually does. So it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, if you haven't been to an HBU home game, you're missing out, because it's a small high school gym feel with a college vibe, and of course, a great college basketball team, the men and the women who are rebuilding again. But it is a cool experience, and I think admission is relatively, a couple bucks to get in. It's a great time.
Yeah. All right. We're going to hear, before we bring in Paul, we want to let you guys hear what head coach Jesse Nakanishi, actually, you know what? Sorry. I need to make sure I pay attention to the time today. Quick takeaways from what you saw in that game with the Sharks. Again, 88-75 over St. Martin's last night. So just share with the beautiful people and some of the stuff you observed last night.
Just a really fun night, fun environment overall. I think Jesse Nakanishi and his coaching staff, and it was cool because, they put on a performance that was worth coming out for. Joshua West looks like an all-Pac West guy once again, if not the best player in the conference. He is outstanding, puts on a show on both ends. Avi Halpert comes off the bench, and tell you what, guys, I don't love Avi's shot in terms of the way that it looks. I think it's a line drive, but I don't care how it looks as long as it goes in like it did last night. 3 for 3 from long distance, 15 points off the bench, and man, oh man, were they needed to kind of help give the Sharks that breathing room against a really talented St. Martin's team from the GNAC. And then Quentin Meza, cue ball, he's just so fun to watch. He is this little ball of energy out there who's not afraid to take a shot from anywhere on the floor. And, oh, by the way, did I mention Quentin McCullough, the QMAC, the big-time poster that he put on, just posterizing a St. Martin's defender in a way where, it sucked the air out of the gym, it felt like. It was truly, truly incredible. Quick takeaways. The Sharks are fun. Their offense is better than it's ever been under Jesse Nakanishi. And the defense, still pretty darn good, by the way. Zane Gall, after looking like a freshman against Boise State, is really, really rapidly adjusting to the college level. And if that's the case, the Sharks are even more dangerous than what we really thought in the first place.
Awesome.
Paul, quick question for you. I know we talked about this during the women's game on Saturday, but now that HPU has beaten one of the Alaska teams and now St. Martin's out of that GNAC, let's say they go on to do really well in the Pac West. How big are those wins as far as potential seeding when it comes to regionals?
It's certainly going to play a role, Jesse. I think he's going to get into it in the little clip of the interview, or maybe he won't. They also have another GNAC foe in Western Washington upcoming on this Friday, and that only adds on to this non-con resume that they have been able to put together. And should they do well in the Pac West, I mean, with a good non-conference schedule, and this was purposeful by Jesse Nakanishi and his staff there, you know, they purposefully scheduled really difficult in the non-con to try and build up their at-large, or perhaps go and be a little bit higher ranked when the regional rankings come out at the end of the year. So these are big ones. There's a reason they were very frustrated to lose their opening game of the season. They've bounced back in a big way in the last two games.
Awesome. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will let you guys hear from what head coach Jesse Nakanishi had to say following that win over St. Martin. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera. Live from the 9th Island on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760. And streaming live on hawaiisportsradio.com.
Welcome back to, we were just getting you caught up with some HPU men's basketball. The Sharks coming out with a nice win last night, 88-75 over St. Martin's. Paul was there covering the game. Again, you can check out his recap at hawaiisportsradio.com. And he also had a chance to catch up with head coach Jesse Nakanishi following that win. So here is that chat for you right now.
Here with HPU head coach Jesse Nakanishi after an 88-75 victory over St. Martin's in the home opener. Coach, just first things first, some emotions after that win, a hard-fought one against a good program, your home opener, a packed-out Shark Tank. What's going through your mind?
Just incredibly proud. We had and we'll never make excuses, but there's no doubt we had a tough schedule. We had 3 games in 4 days with a travel back from Alaska included, and there's no excuse making from our guys. What's next coach mentality, and they gave such an incredible effort today. Super proud of them. We were just pedal to the metal the whole game.
Like you mentioned, some insane travel for you guys going from Alaska back to Hawaii and then playing less than 24 hours later. One guy putting on all-conference, perhaps a player of the year type performance, Joshua West, 22 points, 8 rebounds, 4 steals, really took over in the second half when you guys needed him. What can you say about his performance tonight and what he means to you guys?
I'm not surprised. That's just what he does. You know, he's a two-way player. He just sits down in the stands and he guards, and we put him on their best player every game. He's not taking any plays off, and then he goes on the offensive end, and we try to run some actions for him, and he gets downhill, and everybody feeds off of him. And then, you know, we surround our guys with shooters like Quentin Meza, and Avi hit some big shots, and Nams as well. So, yeah, definitely the head of the snake, and I'm so proud of him because, again, he plays so hard. Obviously, he had that cramping incident, and that happens because he goes so hard sometimes, you know. So just really proud of him.
And then talk a little bit about the environment tonight, right? It's home opener officially here in the regular season. Now you guys have a really strong opponent that comes in, and your students show up for you, the fans show up for you. Talk a little bit about the environment tonight.
I give our coaches and our players a lot of credit. You know, we work hard at promoting our games. We wear a lot of hats, including marketing directors out here. But, you know, we really wanted to fill the stands and give the students and the community something to be proud of. And, you know, we put on a good show, as we called it, for them, and wanted it to be exciting brand of basketball for them to witness. And I think we provided that, so hopefully they keep coming back. And I just encourage everybody to please come out and experience one game at the Tank, and I think you'll be pleased and see how hard these guys play, and with such passion and togetherness. I think they'll want to come back and see more, and just another team to get behind. I just, you know, I really believe that there's good basketball at all levels, and you know, there's not a huge separation in Division I and Division II, and there's a lot of excitement at this level as well. So I'm glad the program is taking off a little bit with, you know, some traction, and you know, obviously the Boise State win you know, was influential in that, but at the same time, you know, there are some really other good teams on our schedule that we're excited to compete against.
And then a question about your guys' defense tonight. They have a player come in averaging 26 per game, and you guys are able to hold him under wraps for the most part. Just kind of talk about the defensive effort of your guys, not just the defensive effort, but also the effort on the glass.
No doubt, you know, that he's a really good player, and our goal was to, you know, he takes a lot of shots. So our goal was to hold him, you know, to 12 or less points, and we did the job there. But we let, you know, number 3 get loose a little bit on us in the first half. But just overall, I thought our rebounding, I think we out-rebounded them by 9. And we had, you know, I was more impressed about our offensive rebounding, that we got a lot of extra shots from our old board. So, you know, and Maya was a big part of that, and when he's active on the boards and active cutting and rolling, you know, he's tough.
Last question for you. You guys, you just talked about the quick turnaround, 3 games in 4 days. A couple of days off now, and then you're right back at it on Friday against Western Washington. What do you guys got to do so that you're prepared to keep on rolling and win that 3rd straight game?
Yeah, we finally get a day off, not the coaches. The guys get a day off tomorrow to recoup from the trip, but our this early run of games right here hasn't ended because we got a 1-day prep only for a really good GNAC team in Western Washington. That's a perennial power in that league. They're always big and athletic, and that's going to be arguably the toughest game of our 4-game stretch right here. And then we got to go take 1 day off and prep for the Bulls, but we're not looking past Western Washington because they're arguably the best team on our schedule potentially.
Awesome.
E2-wise. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach.
And that was HPU men's basketball head coach Jesse Nakanishi following last night's win over St. Martin's. All right, we're going to take our break a little early just so we have some time to get settled again, because now we start the massive amount of lists that we have for all of our special guests that are set to join us this week. So our first guest coming up after this next break, we have Dr. Michelle Coyner joining us. Again, assistant professor in residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and Professional Sports Management. management program, serves as the director for the undergraduate certificate in sport leadership and management as well. So we're going to take, again, a quick break, and then when we come back, we will welcome Dr. Coyner up to chat with us. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
You're clear.
This is Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera, live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, or I guess Wake Up at Stadium Swim. I need to make sure we keep calling it that instead. Not Wake Up. We're not in the den, as you guys know. We're at Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino. Kule Agbayani, Kyle Galdera, and joining us now is Dr. Michelle Calica Coyner from UNLV, assistant professor in residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and
in my family, which makes for a really fun dynamic, of course. And my dad was in the USC marching band back in the day as well.
Wow.
And really encouraged my sister and I to be part of the marching band throughout our lives, and that really made a big difference for me, experiencing those game days from a very young age and seeing the magic of what college athletics and college game day can bring to a community. I very biased maybe or not, that nothing can bring a community together like a college game day, and seeing the USC marching band, the UCLA marching band. It was just so exciting. And by the time I got to college, I was really excited to do that. And I was in the band for 5 years. And I said, okay, that's what I want to do. There has to be a way that I could still be a part of game day in college. And I went to the athletic director. I went to the director of marketing saying, please, what can I do to get involved? I was still a member of the band, so I couldn't quite work the football and men's and women's basketball game days. But anything else, I really wanted to be a part of. And promotions, the sponsorship initiatives and things like that. And then also being able to be in the marching band still at the time and seeing how the marching band fit into the game day script and the game day atmosphere, the fan engagement. It was just magic seeing it from all sides. And I said, okay, this is what I have to do this. I have to stay involved in college athletics. So those were my first experiences up in Reno as an undergraduate student. And then when I graduated, I took on a full-time position with the development office, which was a little bit of a different aspect of college athletics, I would say. Fundraising, special events, but what I really took from that is it brought me so much closer to the student athletes, and seeing how the donors' contributions and engagement with the community really impacted the student athlete experience. And it's like, okay, we're grounding what we're doing for a year full time, and I was really excited. I worked all the game days. I couldn't get away from it. But my main role was working in sponsorships for the Student Recreation and Wellness Center. And that brought me closer to the general student population, and seeing how fitness and wellness and sport can make a difference in everybody's lives and keep us active, keep us social. Just, it's really exciting. And being able to see how sport can impact everybody on such a grand scale, from college game day to our intramural sports to just having fitness in our lives, and being excited about that. And so I really, again, fell in love with another aspect of sport, with being close to the students, the general students, still working with the athletic department, still working with development a little bit. And again, just bringing a piece of everything into my neck. And I was really excited to come back to Vegas after finishing my master's. Some of all of this. Because
that is, do you work, I want to say Jay Vickers
yes,
is in there. Yeah,
yes.
so we had Jay on a couple of years ago. Yeah, and that was when it was really new, and he was telling us all about it. That's
Definitely
awesome. I have to ask you real quick before we get into all the educational stuff, what instrument did you play?
I played the trumpet.
Hey,
there you go.
Cool. That's pretty cool, because I got to give a shout out to our Michael Lescaro, our colleague back home, because he is someone that got into this profession in sports media because he was in band.
I love it.
He was like, when you're practicing out for band, and then you have to watch the football team out there, and then after a while he's like, well, that looks pretty fun, and then he just kind of got into it, and then that's how he became part. So it happens, like, you can become part of the sports culture and the sports life, even if you didn't necessarily was not like a former athlete or anything. It's like, this is kind of interesting. It's for everybody, that game day atmosphere.
Oh yeah, shout out to all the marching bands out there. They make game day so much fun.
So as a marching band fan, though, I have to ask too, since you went to Ohio University.
Oh my
what
goodness.
about Ohio State University marching band?
I love both of both of the Ohio bands, but I love my OU band. Ohio State, though, unmatched. They're fantastic.
Yeah, they're always like going viral for something that they do on their game days. For sure.
I watch them every week.
I was going to ask you, just, you mentioned your development background early on. I currently work in development, in my full-time job. How important is that to the college landscape? I know from Hawaii, we always struggle with trying to raise enough money to keep programs sustainable. I know it might be a little different in Vegas because you have different income streams. But with that being part of your foundation, how important is that work in athletics?
Oh my goodness, extremely important. So I don't work necessarily directly with development as it relates to athletics, but I work very closely with our development officer in the College of Education, and we work on things like external for our students, or to provide for our students. And for me, it's what and student support. And my primary role is I'm a teaching faculty, so I teach several classes both at the undergraduate and graduate level, but also very importantly to me is connecting them with the community, because we're here. Yeah. We're not anywhere else. We're in Las Vegas. Like, we're here. I'm on a strip right now. It's big fun. So connecting them with experiences so that they can apply what they're learning in the classroom, and which, of course, our ultimate goal is that to get them out there and employed in this industry, which can be extremely competitive. And so, like I said, I'm also with the Institute, which also does a lot of external facing partnership type of things. We connect people with research opportunities for the community as well as the campus. Our campus is quite large, so there's different units on campus that sport broadcasting, sport journalism, sport medicine, sport, all the things. So everyone's touching sport in some way here in Las Vegas, and finding a way to, one, get everyone working together, but also getting the students involved in these different types of projects, whether that's out in the field for workforce development or research internally, etc.
And remind me, how many years have you been back here in Las Vegas and working in your position?
So I moved back here in 2018, and I was still a PhD student at the time, but full-time, this is my 4th year.
So how has it, that's perfect timing, anyway, like 2018, right? Like Allegiant coming up and the Super Bowl. How has those few years that you've been here in Las Vegas to see kind of this uptick and the development and just the surge of sports? We talk about like sports tourism, sports business just explode here in Las Vegas from that time in 2018 up until now, with F1 as well here. So all of that stuff, how has that been like for you guys here in Las Vegas?
It's been incredible, and I feel very fortunate again to be here. Right place, right time. You know, I grew up here. I moved here when I was quite young, and I graduated high school from fights. We have youth sport. We have a lot of sport offerings, but you know, these bigger team sports have really made a big difference in 2018 with the Golden Knights coming in and doing what they did for the community in such a meaningful and impactful way. It's just really fun without shouting out the Knights. You know, that's the community, you know, coming together because there's something that they love collectively, and that's the magic of sport. And, of course, diversifying the economy here in Southern Nevada to sport tourism and bringing these different type of sport offerings here. A lot of our wonderful community partners, our hospitality partners, are very involved with the sport landscape here. And again, it's not just these big sports. Yes, we bring the consistent offerings here that they're working very hard to bring here and bring those tourism dollars in business. You know, our youth sport tournaments are incredible. Hosted in the casinos and the casinos and the hospitality assets, and it's really exciting to see. They're here constantly, and they're huge revenue drivers for the city and the state.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time I'm walking through Mandalay Bay, there's some type of youth tournament, like volleyball. I know they have tournaments there, and I'm just like, wow, there's all of these, like USA volleyball is always there every time. Sure. Yeah, so it is pretty incredible.
Yeah, even the Orleans too. You'll see you know, hundreds, even thousands of kids and their parents. Hockey, lacrosse. Throughout the year.
Yeah, our convention ballrooms turn into these huge sport facilities, which is really exciting. So, yeah, definitely bringing that, you know, that tourism economy to Las Vegas is always exciting.
Yeah. So so are you kind of like a fan and follow all of the teams here? Like, of going to all the Golden Knights games?
If I can. Yeah. There's a lot of games, but you know, Golden Knights, amazing partner for a student. Shout out to them. And we have UNLV night with them coming up, and so things that we can engage, you know, the community or even our campus community with our professional and our professional sport organizations here. They're fantastic to work with, and our students are always involved in those games. I actually love going to the games because I walk around and I see them on headset, or I see them running around running promotions, and they typically say hi to me when I walk through the concourse, so that's always exciting. It's like a secondary reason to go to games. Not that I needed one.
That's true. So what is kind of your internal conflict that you go through when it is a UNLV?
There you go. Good
but
answer.
UNLV is in my heart right now, and I'm so proud to be working at UNLV and being part of all these academic and community offerings. It's been a fantastic experience, and the city speaks for itself. I think we have such incredible opportunities here.
Do you still kind of keep up with some of those California teams like UCLA and USC?
Yeah. I love college sports, and all of the college sports. College football is my favorite as well. So
I love that. All right, we are joined by Dr. Michelle Calica Coyner, again, assistant professor in residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and Professional Sports Management program. But we will come back and continue our conversation with Dr. Coyner on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
You're clear.
Thank you. And, of course, the internet wants to be.
It's not like in the second camera, I think.
Yeah.
Or let me rephrase. It doesn't like having to switch back and forth.
Apparently.
Nonetheless, the audio has been phenomenal.
That's the main.
Is Bo going to be here in person?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah. I know, we're excited to chat with him as well because
he might like photobomb us. We'll be like, hey.
Perfect.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera. Live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. Yes, if you're just joining us and you didn't join us yesterday, special extended hours for the show and Wake Up in Stadium Swim or Wake Up in the Cabana. I don't know.
Kind of like a den here.
Yeah, passing live. Ku'ule Agbayani, Kyle Galdera, and you heard me correctly again. Hour number 2, as from yesterday through Friday, we are going 1 hour earlier, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Hawaii time, and of course 9 to noon here in Las Vegas. Hope you guys are making it out here for Friday's big time UH football versus UNLV game. We have another guest coming up a little later in this hour, but we are joined by Dr. Michelle Calica Coyner, assistant professor in residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and Professional Sports Management program, and serves as the director for the undergraduate certificate in sports leadership and management. So before we talk even more about some of the things that UNLV now and getting into some type of sports career for a lot of these young people that are still trying to figure things out, just like you said with the marching band, it's like, I knew I loved this experience, but how do I kind of work my way in here? But before we talk about that a little bit more, and maybe we give some of the parents that are listening or other young people that are listening more advice on how to like potentially go about going to UNLV, what they can explore there. I did just mention the football game on Friday, so you're going to be in attendance, of course.
Absolutely. Go Rebels.
No, just
Go Bows.
Go Bows. Go Bows.
Sorry.
No, perfectly excusable. And that's why it's so, it had to go through the struggle that every football team or every program goes through when you're kind of the group of 5 category and your coach is doing really well, and this is what happens in the world of college sports. Some of the coaches leave and go somewhere else, but being that the last couple of years has been so successful for UNLV, who doesn't have a tradition of winning, I understand, because my other half is a UNLV alum as well, and when Hawaii fans get frustrated with the football program there, he's in like since the 80s or something for football. So as a sports fan and as someone that attended and works at UNLV, how has it been like seeing the success of the Rebels in football now?
Amazing. Let's not talk long-term stats, but it's so amazing. And the game day experience, again, shout out to our game presentation folks at UNLV. They've really worked together to create such a magical experience at Allegiant Stadium, which is amazing. It's been amazing. I don't have any better word, but it's exciting, and it really makes for so much more engagement in the community. Again, there's not many things out there that bring, or most people who get that job have not had experience. So they have to get their foot in the door while they're a student in many times or in many instances. And that's a big priority in our program, is creating the collaborative work with our partners in the curriculum, whether that's in the classroom, through class integration projects. We've had amazing partners. Shout out to the Foley Entertainment Group, UNLV Athletics, and many others that have actually integrated projects within our classes so that, one, the students get the experience, which is our first priority, but also they get the experience of working with our students, seeing them, so that when hopefully one day they're looking for a job, they already can speak to their abilities, can already know what they're capable of doing. And then selfishly on my side, I can draft and create the curriculum in a way that best serves the community as it develops in real time. College athletics, professional sport, all youth sport, everything is shifting and changing students for the landscape that they're about to walk into. It's incredibly a competitive industry, and having access to the industry in any way, shape, or form here in Las Vegas really our partnerships for our students.
How have you guys, has there been an uptick in, enrollment or applications in this particular space?
The program was brand new, and my student enrollment in my classes were like 4 to 6 students.
Oh wow!
And now we're really pushing the cap sizes between 25 and 35 students per class, and multiple sections, and we're needing to hire additional faculty to help with the demand. Really looking at our student application, there's a lot of applications coming through, and so the demand is significantly higher than it was when I started.
So on that note, with the demand and
are fully in person, but there are online course offerings. So there are non-degree seeking opportunities should they be interested in something like that. There are some classes that we offer remotely, asynchronously or synchronously. However, the degree program itself is very much an in-person program, because we want to make sure that they are networking and meeting the people that they need in order to get that next step. We want to make sure we're very intentional with bringing either the guests to the classroom so that they can meet and learn from them in the classroom, or bringing the students out here to the field and experiencing it. This afternoon, with hospitality, actually, we are doing a tour of the Bellagio Fountain Club for Formula One. So I'm headed after this, so they can see that this incredible hospitality asset for a sporting event here. So kind of blending the two worlds and getting them out there so they can see what this means and how we can integrate that in the classroom, vice versa.
It's funny that you bring up that tour, because I'm supposed to go Pauhana with Dan Rush later.
Yeah, that's right.
The tour. So I'm like,
I will do a Dan Rush, yeah.
Oh, can I join the tour? Can I be a student? I want to tour the Bellagio.
I'll be at both, so I'll see you this
So I
afternoon.
was like, that's pretty awesome that all things happen. Again, we're joined by Dr. Michelle Calica Coyner, assistant professor in residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and Professional Sports Management program, and also serves as the director for the undergraduate certificate in sport leadership and management. Going back to admissions and seeing the applicants rise and now the bigger class sizes, what is kind of the general demo makeup? Is it 50-50 with male and female? And then what about different parts of the country, maybe the world, that you see people trying to get into this program now at UNLV?
Yeah, we do have a pretty great blend of male-female students, and that's a huge priority for us. We love contributing to that diversity of our sport workforce.
Is the demo like, if it's 50,
oh yes,
and then where different students are coming from? Like, is it more students that are already here, or maybe you see some from Hawaii, or maybe the East Coast, or maybe somewhere like outside of the country, because sports is big everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. They come from everywhere. So UNLV in general is a very non-traditional student population. We have students coming from all walks of life, career switchers, traditional students, 18 to 21 in the undergrad. So in the master's degree program specifically, I'll speak to that. They do come from everywhere. We have a lot of career switchers, mid-career switchers, even later career switchers. And we have a lot of students that come straight from their undergrad with very limited to no work experience. And so a big priority is providing that work experience. Even if you have 10, 15, 20 years in another industry, and that is extremely applicable to the sport industry, of course. You still need that sport-related industry experience, so we provide that as much as we can embedded into the program. We don't have international status at this time for the program, but that is something we're very much working on. And we have a lot of international interests as well. We get a lot of emails from students that are wanting to come from different countries, and that global perspective is something.
I mean, that is kind of your global sport. It literally travels to different countries to put on all of these races. And now with Las Vegas being one of the newest racetracks that they have during their season, obviously they have one in Miami that's been there for a while. And then so that's kind of adds to maybe the added experience that some of these young people can get, or like you said, mid-career. Young people, young at heart, like they're never too late.
We're all young.
Yeah,
we're all
young.
We're all these
really
young
yes,
professionals.
Exactly, in sports. All right, we're going to take another quick break as we are joined by Dr. Michelle Calica Coyner from UNLV. But don't go anywhere. She's going to stay and hang out for a little bit, and then later on in this hour, we will welcome someone that you know very well, also from UNLV, Dr. Bo, professor in hospitality and sociology, and has, again, an extensive resume, a Harvard guy, dual sport athlete, all of that stuff. But something I know our listeners specifically in Hawaii, because this is a constant debate, and because we love UNLV, well, not maybe the people back home, not loving UNLV on Friday. That's
especially this week.
Yeah. But we love Las Vegas, and he is the expert in gaming and our economy going there in Hawaii. But no, we're having a lot of fun with our UNLV guests today, but we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
You're clear.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera. Live from the Ninth Island on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760. And streaming live on hawaiisportsradio.com.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Waking up in Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Kyle Galdera, and we are continuing our conversation with our special guest from UNLV, Dr. Michelle Calica Coyner, Assistant Professor in Residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and Professional Sports Management Program, and also serves as the sports, but another major program that we kind of highlighted a couple of years ago when we were here is the hospitality program that UNLV has to offer as well. I mean, very popular, and I know they get a lot of applications from all over the world. I believe it is still actually the best hospitality program in the country. I think Cornell was the other one that it kind of goes, oh, see, she's like, no, brushing it off. No, boo, it's a UNLV hospitality, that's for sure. But if you could share a little bit, because I know there's a lot of people, especially all over the world, obviously, that look at hospitality, and then you were mentioning how you're in the sports side, but it does very much blend together. So if you can kind of share how that works at UNLV, where both programs kind of essentially work together there.
Yeah, so like this afternoon's a great example. We're working together on this field trip to the Bellagio Fountain Club to check out this really cool hospitality space for Formula One. They're amazing out there in the hospitality college. They have been very big about connecting with our casino partners and our hospitality partners here, and getting the students out in the field experiences and internships as well. They've been around for much longer than we have, and so they're a great model to follow and to look to as we build a lot of these similar initiatives on the sport management side. Working together, I mean, hospitality is an aspect of sport, and that sport is now an aspect of hospitality, and it's pretty hard to separate the two with a lot of our partnership initiatives. For instance, at the facilities, there's these nice, beautiful suites. There's these Bellagio Fountain Clubs, like blending sport and hospitality together. Our partnerships and our sponsorship directors have always had to, really steward the partners that they work with. And as the field continues to develop and move toward more premium experiences on game day and premium spaces in facilities, as we're going to see this afternoon, and knowing that, the relationship building is more important than ever. That's always been incredibly important, but making sure that we're stewarding the relationships properly in all those spaces throughout the game and all the things. But the hospitality college has done a great job engaging their students and working with us and engaging our students as well.
So going back to your program, as you mentioned, that it is relatively new. We talked about how the class sizes went from like 4 to 6 to like over 30 now, all of that stuff. We don't want to name any of the other institutions, but are there a lot of this type of programs across the country at all?
Yeah, I definitely growing. I would say the West Coast has grown a little bit slower than in other areas of the country. As I mentioned, I went to my graduate program in the Midwest in Ohio, and there are many programs in that area that have been established. Ohio University is actually the first ever sport management program in the country, which is why they have this robust alumni network that's really exciting to be a part of. But yeah, that area is a little bit more developed as far as sport management programs. The West Coast is we were still growing on the West Coast as far as sport management offering. West Coast, there's more of a network here for the students to engage with, and we want to be great partners to them as well.
I was just going to ask, what on that note, investing in a program like that is important. And speaking to our listeners back home, hopefully some politicians are listening, but why is it so important to make that investment? I know we're here in Vegas, so sometimes you have to gamble, but it seems like that gamble is really paying off, especially for UNLV and the program you're building. Why is that initial investment so important, and why do you think especially Hawaii policymakers should be a little more open-minded when it comes to a program like this?
Yeah, well, for me, it always comes down to the students and providing students pathways to positions and opportunities that will get them to where they want to go. And for us, adding sport to our Southern Nevada economic development is a huge driver of tourism, of money, of economy, and that tourism. And that is, as far as economic development is incredibly important to diversify where you're creating business for the people that are coming. I know Hawaii is also a pretty tourism-driven economy. And so for the students to have access to offerings that also contribute to, economic development, incredibly important for us. And we've seen the students really benefit from that. And, our students they're out. A lot of them graduate and they stay here in Nevada, which is the dream. But they're also going around the country and that expands the network even further, right? And so they go, wherever they go, they're an alum of this program, and we engage with them. We keep up in person, and yeah, for me, it always comes back to the students. And then on the other side, the now in sport, and again, those mutually beneficial relationships, and that's where the true economic drivers come from.
All right, we don't want to. We want to make sure we give a lot of the people the information that might be listening on how they can discover more about the program and offerings at UNLV. So I will kind of give you the platform. What is maybe the best way to find out about it, or maybe even if there are young people that are currently like doing their undergrad, and like you mentioned, they can always switch, or there's a master's program. What are some of the recommendations on maybe something they can study in their undergrad that will help them and maybe get into the master's program there at UNLV? But just your general advice to anyone listening, and maybe parents out there that are like nudging their kid is like, hey, I heard this on the radio.
Attention.
Like, this seems really fun. You love sports, so maybe think about this, right? And I think that's the awesome thing about what UNLV is offering in this space. One, it's at UNLV, so any Hawaii people that get a little homesick, they can move out here and not feel so far from home in a sense to study something like that. And two, just the explosion of sports and the interest and everything like that. So if you could share some insight and a little bit more advice on how some people can really discover more about the program. If there's anything additional, then to just go on the website.
Yeah, we do have a website, but I'm always happy to connect with students, and I think that is the best way to really learn and start building your network. That's biggest piece of advice, is make sure you just put yourself out there and ask questions. That's what I did. I said, I want to work for the athletic department. I went straight to the athletic director, set up an informational interview, and he ended up being a really good mentor to me at the time and helped connect me with the people that I needed to. And this industry is very competitive to get in, but everybody in it is so willing to give back, and that's really what we want to, remind the students, is that we are all here to give back to you. It was hard for us to get into it, but we don't want it to be hard for the next generation, and we want to help. And so just reach out to the people that you're interested in. And even if there's limited sport, I know here in Las Vegas we have endless sport offerings, but if there's limited sport opportunities, just still, get involved with your local youth sports, your local universities. We like to see that on resumes, that you took advantage and made the most out of your situation and the market that you're in. Like I said, I was in Reno. Not the smallest market in the world, but it's much smaller than Las Vegas, and I did what I could to get involved with minor league basketball, minor league baseball, the institution, the university, and youth sport and things like that. We like to see that in those applications. And reach out, just ask questions. People love to meet with you. Those informational interviews were so impactful for me to get the next position, to meet the next person. And I'm happy to do that for anyone listening if they want to connect with me and ask for any specific experience, advice, or things like that.
That's awesome. And that's such good advice, too, because, I think a lot of times people don't know where to start. So I'm glad you shared that, where things will, if it's on your resume, it'll actually help, even if it's just volunteer or extracurricular that you do. Vice President of this stuff. Again, we are joined by Dr. Michelle Calica Coyner, Assistant Professor in Residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and Professional Sports Management Program, and also serves as the Director for the Undergraduate Certificate in Sport Leadership and Management.
Longest title ever. I'm
no,
so
but
sorry.
I love it. I don't want to forget anything. That's the crazy thing. Like, I don't want to be insulting, because that's awesome. Considering all the stuff that you have done, we joked about this off air, but we'll say it again, because for those of you watching, you look very, very young. So when I saw your name pop up when Cindy, it's been so fun, like, chatting with you, knowing that you're a sports fan, and your background, considering I started from the marching band.
I know.
Now you're here working in Las Vegas, doing all the sports stuff for sure. Again, if you guys listening, and as you mentioned so gracefully that people can reach out to you, well, I'll put it out on our social media, share your email if that's okay with people. We'll share your email, and then also if you guys want to text in at 808-888-5481, then we can kind of maybe hopefully facilitate something or share the email via that way as well, because this has been like, I wish I could go back to school now, because I kind of want to do this.
You can maybe get your master's if you want.
Maybe, yeah.
I feel like
Before you go, I know I don't want to put you on the spot, but Friday is a big game. You're obviously rooting for UNLV. What are you thinking score-wise?
Oh, no, don't ask me that. That'll stress me out too much. I know we're at the Circa
But you're definitely
Sportsbook.
picking.
Yes.
Okay. That's one for that side.
Like I said, don't focus on the data.
Well, speaking of, since he's kind of joining us in a little bit, hopefully he can make his way up here at Stadium Swim. But if you don't mind, you just said you guys were actually close and you know him very well. So if you could almost tee up and do the pre-intro to our intro before we have him here, and just share a little bit about him and working with him there at UNLV.
Yeah, Bo is such an energetic. He's a UNLV lover, fan, and supporter, and he loves this fun economy here at UNLV. And that's so true, right? We make fun out of experiences, out of entertainment here. We are the sport and entertainment capital. It's a fun show.
It is a fun show. And I love how sports like makes studying fun in a way now, because as someone, again, I mentioned I went to get my degree in criminology and criminal justice. I'm not a schoolgirly, but if it interests me, that was like easy. Like I'm like, oh, so now I'm like, man, I maybe would have like stats class a little bit more in college if it was, this is for the sports side of things.
Yeah, I teach sport, finance, and economics. And I promise it's a fun class. I promise. I tell the students that.
That is right up my alley.
I know, it's a fun one.
Again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We are friends until Friday at 7:30, and then like we'll see what happens. But we're hoping for obviously every player to leave the field entirely healthy, and for everyone to be safe, and just for an entertaining game on Friday.
And a lot of points.
Yes.
A lot of points.
And a lot of points. Well, yeah, Kyle, definitely a lot of points. So we're doing, well, hopefully Bo will get here. And we're joined by Dr. Michelle Calica Coyner over at UNLV. So you guys can message us, text us, or anything if you want. A great guest to have, especially in this space, and I kept chuckling about it that, man, I wish I could go back to school, but I am 100% serious, and my regular listeners like know that I am not like I don't really like the whole school thing. It's not my thing, but I love to learn.
Here.
I love to learn. Like, if you give me something that I'm passionate about, like, I can learn anything and everything, right? Like, that's just something. But when she mentioned, like, oh yeah, sports, stats and finance, I'm like, I'm there. If you put, kind of how she said, if you put sports in front of any traditional profession, it becomes something that you can really study. And like, that's how I feel about with other things like math, where it's
for the full program, but there might be some potential remote opportunities if you want to take almost like a one-off class here and there. So maybe we can look into that. Or maybe, and this is a big step, but maybe there could be a UNLV-Hawaii campus one day.
That would
like
be
a satellite.
Ooh, I know 8, but they have a Vegas campus.
Right.
So that's
maybe,
not unheard of.
Okay,
yeah.
so maybe UH can be on the sideline for that project and then just have UNLV come to HPU and do a project that way.
That is so cool. So once again, thank you to Dr. Michelle Calica Coyner, and I always have to look back on my notes because I don't want to completely get it wrong, but just it's so incredible, such an incredible young woman, assistant professor in residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and Professional Sports Management program. So again, you can look that up, Google it on their UNLV website to find out more about the actual degree and program. She also serves as the director of the undergraduate certificate in sport leadership and management, and studied just about everything. For those that missed it, I thought that was kind of fun, where she did mention that she was in the marching band, because I think of our Michael Esquero, who is also in band, and being in band, watching the football team at Waipahu High School was a reason why he started to enjoy and follow football, and then eventually just started falling in love with all sports, and that's how he kind of got this passion for sports. So it is that, I think that's a cool thing to meet someone else who started off essentially in band and realized, like, wow, this game day experience is so awesome, and this is what I about sports. When you see someone who comes outside and gets into it and does a fabulous job of being in this profession, it's pretty incredible.
And that's funny you mention that, because when I was in band in high school, I wanted to get out of band because I love sports coverage because of band. I stayed in sports because I got out of band. So you can go either way.
You can go what happened. So hopefully Dr. Bo Bernard will be joining us pretty soon. I hope he found it okay. I didn't see my phone ringing or anything or get any emails, but because he seems someone that is going to be awesome to talk to. I know he's been traveling, but we will hope to get him on soon, and maybe within this hour. She was starting to say that he was fun, so I'm sure he'll be a fun guest to have on, because he is a professor at UNLV, sociology and hospitality, but probably the most interesting thing that he is an expert in gaming research in kind of bringing the Oakland Raiders to Las Vegas. I'm sure some of the true Oakland Raiders fans probably aren't too happy about the work he's done, but nonetheless, for some of us, we are. Oh, I think that's him. Oh, there he is. All right, perfect. Dr. Bernard joining us right now. We are live on air, so come over here, sit, have a seat. All right, yeah, there you go. Is your headset, sir? Hey,
wow,
whoa.
There you go. I like it.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we're getting Dr. Bo Bernard set up real quick, and then bring your mic down, and we'll turn this up right here. Awesome. So you not watching, he does have on this, but a professor at UNLV, also works with the alumni groups and philanthropy, but gaming and economic development expert, which is pretty cool. But before we get into all of that, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I know you've been traveling and you're only here for a couple of days, but we appreciate you so much for making the time.
For having me and for coming and building our Ninth Island love.
Yeah, and so I must ask, though, that is pretty cool. So you're a professor at UNLV and do all this work for UNLV, but is sporting the University of Hawaii hat. So
I am indeed. Spent a lot of time there, and my credit card is a Hawaiian Airlines Miles card, so everything on, I get a little bit closer to my...
Thank you again so much for joining us, but really they was still... You don't mind just sharing a little bit about yourself? I saw that you are a fifth-generation Nevadan, which... depending on what part of Nevada you're from, that's very rare
weird.
here.
You can say weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's
very
weird.
Strange. It's
Las Vegas, transient city especially. But yeah, tell us a little bit about just growing up here and being coming from a family that's been in Nevada for so long.
Yeah, and it's a Las Vegas story. My family got chased out of Texas for running illegal casinos or working in those casinos. I don't know if they were bigwigs running the place. And they came out here because it was kind of a land of opportunity at the time for people who were on the wrong side of the law. So 5 generations later, we're a university professor. My daughters are the 6th generation. And that actually is how I played in college. And I had a professor who read the program. Over many years now, 30 years at UNLV, I've talked to with a lot of my Hawaiian students, which is, okay, let's talk about growing up in a performative place where we are welcoming the world and we're trying to show them a good time. And the bonds that have been created over the years in my classroom between my native Las Vegas kids and my native Hawaiian kids, it's just beautiful, right? Because it's like we speak the same language and we get it, right? We know what it's like. So that was my childhood.
I'm like, he just kind of glossed over the fact that it's like, oh, my family got kicked out of Texas for illegal. I'm like, wait, let's kind of like go back to that, because I never. So thinking that I was going to ask you about like how your family ended up here and stayed here, I was not expecting
it's
kicked out of Texas
it's a dark,
because
dark path. Yeah. No, I mean, casinos have been illegal in the United States, in most of the United States for most of America's history. And there's always been places where you can gamble, right? And that's true today in Hawaii, even as Hawaii doesn't have legalized gambling. That's true in places where there's a death penalty for gambling. And that was true in America at the time. So my great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather both worked in places where it's kind of like a Scooby-Doo episode where you push like the bookcase and you go back into a room somewhere and there's like a whole roulette table there. And that was them. And, finally like a sheriff tapped them on the shoulder and said, hey, we'll stop throwing you in jail. If you just go to this little place out west where they let you do all kinds of things. And that was Vegas, and it was the beginning of my family here.
Prevalent around across the country, and sports betting and legal in a lot of the states now that we've seen in the last few years. Fingers crossed in Hawaii. But going back, though, to just your start and upbringing, pretty cool because you played both sports that Kyle and I played. I saw at Harvard baseball and soccer there. So
I was chasing both balls around my whole life. Yeah.
So if you just don't mind sharing a little bit about your athletic background there and going to Harvard.
So my name is Bo, and of course, when I was growing up, there was this amazing Nike campaign that was about Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
And Bo Knows, and that was on my letter jacket, which is hugely embarrassing in like high school, right? When you think it's so cool, all right, I had Bo Knows. And I mean, there was like the level of hero worship that most of us have for athletes, and then like way higher than that was the level of admiration I had for him. And I really wanted to be him. And I said I was going to be him, right? I wrote things down on my wall, and I words in both sports and kind of fulfilling that dream of being a two-sport athlete like my hero.
It's really awesome.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Like, we just got this conversation started, and he's like hitting us with the best stories already as we are joined by Dr. Bo Bernard, again, a professor at UNLV and a gaming and economic development expert. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're kind of going to get into all of that other fun stuff that I know a lot of our listeners are very excited to hear about with your expertise in the background with the Raiders and all parts in between. So we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
You're clear.
Thank you. Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Kule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino. Thank you guys for hanging out with this week. Starting yesterday, we were live with you guys from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And streaming live. The stream's kind of acting up, but nonetheless, you guys can, if you miss anything, you can listen back on demand wherever you get your podcasts. And part of the reason why we are doing these extended shows is because we're looking forward to having a lot of great guests. Earlier, we heard from Dr. Michelle Coyner, who is all-things professor in sociology and hospitality for UNLV, but additionally a gaming and economic development expert. So we'll get into more stuff when we're here at the UNLV and the Raiders and everything like that. But when I was looking at your bio, as we mentioned earlier, that you attended Harvard, dual sport athlete in soccer and baseball. But this was fascinating, and you touched on it briefly earlier, but I want to really kind of talk about it some more, is that you had an undergraduate thesis on the community impacts of the gaming and tourism industries in Nevada. So, like I said, you mentioned it ever so slightly when you first came on, but if you could kind of share a little bit more about that and what went into this thesis that you had there at Harvard.
It really comes back to one professor who cared, who showed up to one of my games, saw I was from Las Vegas, said, you should write your paper in my class on that. Like, what was it like being part of the community that, much like Hawaii, welcomes the world to it, right? And it was the most fun paper I ever wrote, right? And all of a sudden, studying was super interesting because I was doing research on something I really cared about. And I never thought I could be a professor. I didn't think I was smart enough to be a professor. But I realized to be a professor, you just have to be smart at like one thing, right? And that became my thing right as gambling was being legalized all over the world. So by the time I was 30, I had presented my research on 6 continents. I've since done this on 40 states and 50 countries. And it's really all about the question that or South Africa or Chile, all of which are places I've spent a significant amount of time in, studying this from an academic perspective and looking at what we call the fun economy, the combination of sports and entertainment and tourism, and of course all of those worlds converging more and more and more every single year. So I just got lucky. It's like, you know, I'm like one of those bad surfers in Waikiki that's taking the lesson, and you just like get on the board and you just hang on to the board, and you just, and eventually you fall, but you just hang on, right? Because you can't surf because you're learning how to surf because you're, you know, some random tourist. That's been my career. It's just like hanging onto that board as that wave sort of pushes you in, and it's been a great run.
So you made that point about what if you were to drop somewhere like Circa into, you know, a different country or place, and we always talk about being from Hawaii, how I think great that would be for Hawaii, but there are some back home that say, oh, it would be bad because, you know, you bring crime and other elements. But with your extensive studies, you know, how would you foresee that working or not working in Hawaii?
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? Tourism is now 10% of the world's economy. 1 in $10 pesos, yen, spent on planet Earth, spent on tourism. Now, of course, in places like Hawaii and Las Vegas, we appreciate that, but that number is actually only going up as 35 million people in China last year went from poverty up into the middle class. 35 million people in India went from poverty up into the middle class. And the first thing they start to buy is trips. And what you need to be is, of course, competitive in this exploding world of a growing middle class worldwide, that the first thing you buy when you escape the world of all I can buy is like toothpaste and diapers and the stuff I need, to what are the things that I want. And the first thing that people want is trips, is to see the world, right? And given that, it's really, really important for Hawaii, for Las Vegas, for any place, to continually build sort of new roller coasters at the Disneyland that we all live in, right? And in our case, like, we built this sphere. You've seen the sphere here, right? I mean, that is a great illustration of like a new ride at the amusement park. And the moment that the Six Flags is and the Universal Studios and the Disneyland stop building new rides is the moment that people stop coming to your amusement park. And Hawaii is a place that I think could benefit from the amusement park vibe that is the Bellagio, right? That is you know, the California vibe. As my kids don't have any money, right? Their dad has money. And the dads of the world, the moms of the world, and increasingly in places like China and Mexico and Vietnam and China, are all people who want to play in places like this. And so given that this is the economic landscape for the next 50 years, the fun economy is going to explode further in the next 50 years, you've got to have really good rides at the amusement park. And it's places like this that are the world's roller coasters.
Yeah, and speaking of that, considering that we mentioned that your family has been here for your 5th generation Nevadan, how we asked Dr. Coyner about this, but I want to ask you, because you've been here all your life, essentially, how has that been like for you to see the recent explosion of the sports capital side? Because 2 years ago we were talking about, this was pre-Super Bowl coming here, so we were talking about entertainment capital is Las Vegas, and it was now transitioning into entertainment and sports capital.
That's right.
But now that it is doing that, we have Formula One here for the third time, and then we mentioned the Sphere. They had UFC in there, right? Like did the T-Mobile, but also in the Sphere, and then the baseball coming here now with the MLB. There's constantly talks about the NBA coming in here. So as someone that has been here all of your life, how has that been to see the recent explosion of sports coming here to Las Vegas?
It's mind-blowing. Right, I grew up in a relatively small town that's become capital of the sports world. It's an innovation capital. UFC is an innovation. That is, like, when you think about the sports page, there's only one sport that's been invented in the last 50 years that is on our sports page, right? And it's UFC, right? All the other sports have been around, right? And it was really invented, created, fostered, cultured in Las Vegas, and probably only in Las Vegas because, again, that phrase I use, the fun economy, tourism plus sports, those of us who studied it, as we become really kind of a global innovation and intellectual capital of those 3 mega industries coming together. And so when you think about, for example, Honolulu and the Aloha Stadium project, right, which I think is really important for the future of sports, not just for the University of Hawaii, but for Hawaii more generally, right? Getting that right and really understanding that the future of tourism, sports, and entertainment is a future where all three combine is really important for the future of cities like Las Vegas and cities like Honolulu.
So on that point, a couple of years ago, I brought up that Hawaii should look a little bigger because right now they're building a 20,000-seat stadium with the mindset of we're going to have UH there. But my thing is, okay, that covers what, 7 Saturdays a year?
Right.
What are you going to do with the other 360 nights?
Right.
So why not build something like Allegiant where it's going to take a lot more money, but I'm sure Allegiant has already paid for itself and more.
Very much
so why not look at the big picture?
Yeah. In our case, I'll just speak to the Las Vegas case. We did not have a venue for Beyonce, right? We had a venue for a 20,000-seat event, right? And, you know, if you were somebody who filled 20,000-seat arenas, you were good. But if you were Beyonce, you didn't have a place to come. It's in Las Vegas, right? And so one of the things we heard a lot about was how, well, you know, these stadiums are really only for football, and the Minnesota Vikings had just built theirs, and it really was kind of empty the whole year. And they're like, it's going to be like that. Well, not when you have a place that people already want to come. And, of course, Hawaii's like that, too. When you think about the ways in which the Japanese inbound tourist in Hawaii was so important, right? And that's a fan of UFC, right? That's a fan of mega event BTS weekends, which we just had at, you know, I know it's South Korean, right? But same thing for the tourists from Seoul, South Korea, right? Same thing for the tourists from Beijing. Same thing for the tourists from Singapore. These are people who already love Hawaii, and giving them an opportunity to have as a part of their stay, not just all the things that they love about Hawaii, but also a Beyonce, also a BTS, also a Taylor Swift, right?
Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars, who again is the closest thing to Michael Jackson in my lifetime, right? And his show here is absolutely incredible. You know, to also have that as one of the rides at the amusement park, it benefits the Hawaii tourism industry. And I recognize, again, one of the things that we talk about in our classes on tourism at UNLV, when we have 10 Hawaiian kids, 10 Las Vegas kids, and 10 kids from somewhere else, and we'll have this back and forth about how, tourism is something you have to manage, right? Tourists sometimes can feel a little bit like that friend you invite for 5 days to your house, and they stay at your house, and on the 5th day, you're like, man, this probably should have been a 4-day trip, right? Like, sometimes the tourists feel that way, right? And you know who gets that? Hawaiian kids and Las Vegas kids, right? Like, we get that. But who better than us to understand how to manage this industry that, by the way, it's 10% now. It's going to be 15%, 20% of the world's economy in the next 50 years. So when you already have a head start, like Hawaii does, I think you've got to make these decisions in a really intelligent way to make sure that the next 50 years look like fun, look like the fun economy.
I love the way that you put that in. And now considering, too, when I think about, I see some of these memes on social media that says, 40-year-olds are just 20-year-olds with money now. So, and that's kind of,
true.
People want to go out and have fun, spend their money somewhere else. Yeah, Hawaii, Las Vegas, giving them more opportunities to spend that money.
People are younger later.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
People are younger later and longer, and that's only going to continue. And as a result, again, you're going to have more people like me falling down on surfboards, but who love the idea of doing something physical in Hawaii, love the idea of, again, living a life filled with experiences, right? And who gets that too is the younger generation. You talk to Gen Z, you talk to the kids that I'm around, the 34,000 students at UNLV, and they're like, look, I want to buy experiences, not stuff. And I always think, you know what? That's actually really healthy. That's really healthy. The kids are all right. Kids know what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's actually, it really has shifted. All right, we do need to take a break. We're joined by Dr. Bo Bernard, UNLV professor in sociology and hospitality, but also a gaming and economic development expert. I know we teased it a bunch, and you guys have been waiting. I kind of wanted to, kind of dangle the carrot a little bit for everyone, because when we come back from our break, we are going to talk about one of the major researches that you had to do with bringing the Oakland Raiders to Las Vegas, because we have a ton of Raiders fans and just NFL fans in general, and of course Las Vegas fans back at home that are listening or tuning in right now. So when we come back, we're going to ask you about how that all came together to bring an NFL team to Vegas, and just let us know if it's working out or not, because it seems like it is. Yeah. So we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera. Live from the 9th Island on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760. And streaming live on hawaiisportsradio.com.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ule Agbayani, Kyle Galdera at Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino. Thank you guys for joining us for the rest of the week. Again, extended hours, 7 a.m. To 10 a.m. Hawaii time, broadcasting live in this awesome cabana. Shout out again to our friends at Circa Resort and Casino. Of course, Derek Stevens for letting us hang out here and setting everything up for us for the second time that we've done this here. We were here a couple of years ago, but it's been a fun time so far. And as we mentioned earlier, part of the reason why we have extended show hours is so that we can talk to very, very fascinating guests like we have here with us right now, Dr. Bo Bernard, professor in sociology and hospitality, but probably we've been chatting about almost half an hour already, so if you guys did miss any of it, you'll be able to listen back on demand wherever you get your podcast. But we teased it. We've been teasing it since yesterday. Well, probably one of the most interesting things that we are going to ask you about now and share all of the insight of it and the background is bringing the Oakland Raiders here to Las Vegas. So if you can just, maybe from the beginning stages, how that even, because I feel like anytime you talk about sports capital, I mean, you got to have professional teams. Football is the biggest sport in the country. So yes, please share with us on really how the idea started and what.
I was there at the coin toss. It was, and then a lot of really good people got it over the line and scored the touchdown. But I know the story of the beginning of the Las Vegas Raiders because it happened in a classroom, and it happened in my classroom, which was crazy. I was teaching an executive education program. So it's people who want to run shiny buildings like this and be Derek Stevens someday, right? To be CEO of one of the tall buildings in Las Vegas. So these are mid-career people, not undergraduate students. And I was talking about how the NFL, of course, has been very anti-Las Vegas, right? This is 2015. So they had said we won't play the What Happens Here Stays Here ads on the Super Bowl. They wouldn't let Tony Romo come to a signing event at the Venetian.
Wow.
There were just a million examples like this. Like, what part of no don't you understand? You can't even go near. Like, Tony Romo wanted to go to the convention center.
Yeah, there was a fantasy football.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so when you're a teacher, you use that, right? And so I said, your jobs are really hard if you want to be Derek Stevens someday, because not only do you need to be good at the walls inward part of your business, like running a business, running a building, you also need to be good at the walls outward part, because people like the NFL are going after you. And here's what the NFL doesn't know. And I went through this list of all the stuff we've done research at the International Gaming Institute and the UNLV William F. Harrah College of Hospitality, where I'm a professor. And during the first break, a guy walks up, and he was a huge guy, and he goes, my name's Napoleon McCallum. He was a long-time running back for the Raiders. I got to tell you, I love that part of the NFL because for years I've been telling Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, you got to move the team from Oakland to Vegas. And every year he says, but the gaming, the Las Vegas stuff, we reserved LasVegasRaiders.com in the 90s.
Wow.
But every time we brought it up, they've been like, look, what part of no don't you understand? And then Napoleon said some magic words. He said, I think I heard some answers to those issues. Do you want to meet Mark Davis? And I thought, sure. And I also thought that's never going to happen, right? It's one of those things that's never going to happen. Yeah. But sure enough, a couple weeks later, UNLV police escorted him in. It had to be top secret, right? Because if they even found out they were talking to Vegas, so there's all this secrecy. And he sits down across from me, just like you are, and says, so Bo, Napoleon, my former player, he loves his former, right? And I thought, well, you've been studying your whole life for this. Lay it out. So I laid it out. And I said, look, this is what the NFL says. This is what the data says. This is what people believe about Las Vegas. This is what the reality is, as our research suggests. And at the end, he goes, can you put all that information in a big, fat report? And I said, sir, that is literally what I do. That is literally my job. That I can do. There's a lot of stuff I can't do, but that I can do. And then he said, well, you're going to be hanging out with a lot of owners because here's the deal. There's 32 owners, and you need 3/4 of them to vote yes to move a team from one place to another. And they got to hear this story. So you got to take this research and then educate people. So fast forward to the Biltmore Hotel, March of 2017. We're at the NFL owners meeting in Phoenix, Arizona. And they kicked me out, of course, and they're in there for the big vote. They're in these thrones, look like a room of Jedis, right? Big circle of thrones, and all 32 owners are in there. And I go outside, and I get the text on my phone, and as I'm walking out, and it says, yes, 31, no, 1. The Las Vegas Raiders have been voted into existence.
Wow.
And here's what I always tell my students, be like Napoleon was on that day. Because what if you were like I used to be in school? I'll tell you how I used to be. I used to sit in the back, and and then the other part of my brain would say, "Ooh, don't say that." Even his voice. You with me on this? Like, good for him. Like, and so I always tell my students, be like Napoleon, not like Bo. Be like, one Raiders running back, not like Bo, right? Like, because it's so important. We all have something to say, and we all know stuff that if we turn it loose out into the world, you never know what's going to happen. In our case, a little conversation in a class turned into one of the most successful franchises in America. So when Mark Davis walked in on that day, he was worth, I think, $600 million, which is a lot of money, right? The Raiders just got valued at $7.4 billion. Wow. And again, it's back to the point we were talking about before the break of this fun economy. It's because here is where tourism, sports, and entertainment combine in a crazy lucrative way.
And the interesting thing is the Raiders aren't even that good this year.
They're
but
not
the
good
fact
at football.
That
They're
brand
not good
is
at the
here,
basic thing that they
right.
the on-field product this year.
But you have the destination. Like people were just talking about how
Yeah.
Shadur Sanders is starting for the Browns this Sunday against the Raiders.
Yeah.
And how it's a destination. And it's like, oh, by the way, the Raiders are here too.
Yeah,
so
that's right. That's right.
And going back to the A's, even though there aren't a lot of A's fans because they're not doing well, the fact that they're coming here, I'm a Braves fan. I'm going to come to Vegas to watch my Braves.
Of course.
Oh, by the way, they're playing the A's.
Yeah.
So you build that, it's more than just this limited viewpoint.
Again, it's a ride at the amusement park, and a fun one, right? And people are increasingly spending their money on sports, on tourism, on entertainment, on experience. And the next generation's doing it even more, and the middle class is exploding worldwide. We hear a lot in America about the struggles of the middle class, and that's real, right? But two things can be true. The middle class in America can be struggling, and the global middle class is exploding. And the first thing that they buy when they join the middle class is the stuff that the Hawaiian Islands sell, is the things that Las Vegas sells, right? Is an unmatched experience, right? And to the degree that we've been good at that for a long time and can be good at it for the next 50 years, it's going to be a good 50 years for our two places.
Man, that's just been incredible to see it. And yeah, like we were just saying, even though the football team's not doing well, it seems like Allegiance doing just fine.
Doing very
I mean,
well.
and then Mark Davis, I mean, would he have invested with the WNBA
The
team? And now that
story's
exploded,
amazing.
right?
Yeah.
Like, 3-time champions
They
now,
are
and
rock
that
stars.
valuation has gone up, exploded
Exactly
the WNBA. So I'm sure Mark Davis
here, right? I've long said that if you look at like Fortune 500 CEOs, all 500 of the Fortune 500 CEOs probably go to New York City at least once a year, right? Because that's where the bank is. But they probably all come to Vegas too, right? It's probably Fortune 500 CEOs come to because we have the big. So the two cities in the world that all the bigwigs come to at least once a year probably are New York and Vegas, right? The question then becomes, how do you leverage that? How do you make that part of your economy in a way that when they go back, the people who live here, just like the Hawaiians who live there every day, right, benefit, right, in a way that that grows the economy, grows our everyday life.
And we are joined by Dr. Bo Bernard, a UNLV professor in sociology and hospitality and a gaming and economic development expert, along with a bunch of other stuff that you do have and that you've done so far. And probably, if you guys missed it, the most intriguing thing we started off right away with is that fifth-generation Nevadan, but family moved here because they got kicked out of Texas because of the illegal gaming. And now you have made it a very long-term career and have contributed to a stadium.
Yeah, I just toured it the other day, and where home plate is, they've sunk a big green piece of concrete. And I stood up there and got in my stance and hit, just like I did when I was a little kid, a pretend home run. I'm like making the sounds of the crowd, right? And so, yeah, I told John Fisher, the owner who was there on that day, I just hit the first home run in your stadium. Yeah, and nobody saw it. It went off the Statue of Liberty at the New York facade because I hit it so far.
It's still going.
It's still going. It's still going, right? But, yeah, it's going to be another field of dreams, another field of our imaginations, and it's going to be an incredible facility when that thing opens.
See, so you guys heard it here first. Dr. Bo Bernard hit the first home run in the Las Vegas
straightaway center
A's
field
Stadium. There you go. Exactly. Perfect. Or like you said, still going. It's up
still
there
going.
somewhere, you know, right? Like Kyle Schwarber ain't got nothing on where that home run ball
I got
is
all,
out
I
there.
got all of it. I got all of it.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. Actually, before we go to our break, we did get a texter because you mentioned S&P 500 companies. We got a texter. Well, actually, our friend in the desert, that avid listener of our show back home, but always texts in about like stuff he's betting and stuff. But he did text in, "Hi, Dr. Bernard. Can college football integrate research and development?" I'm thinking this is for NIL can be the future for S&P 500 companies. I'm not sure if you're involved at all in some of the research with now the new landscape in NIL.
Football. And part of that's reflective of the product itself being massively popular and attracting massive amounts of television dollars and investment in a very different direction, right? So the NIL thing is something I don't think any of us have figured out. I think if you actually, got all the athletic directors in the country to be honest, they'd be like, yeah, I don't know where it's headed or exactly how to solve this or what we're doing. But it is absolutely the future, clearly. And, it reflects obviously just a massive kind of professionalization of sports, the growth of sports. Sports worldwide is now up to 2% of the world's economy. 2% of every dollar spent on planet Earth is spent on sports. And that's huge, right? And when you think about all the different things that we have to spend our money on. But again, that number's only going up. And so these moments where we're like, wow, there's a lot of money in sports, and wow, is money creating problems in sports? Yeah, that's going to continue, right? That's going to be something that's on our horizons for the next 50 years.
Yeah, and because it comes down to entertainment, right? And people would always kind of joke and ask me why I love sports so much, or why I've been into sports like all my life from what I can remember. But I always joke because obviously like people like reality television these days especially, and I'm like, sports is the best reality TV out
so
there.
compelling.
Like, and it's unscripted.
Yeah.
Obviously there's been some issues in the NBA, but for the most part
so much
it is
drama.
Traditionally reality,
So much
unscripted. You get all that
drama.
drama. You get the highs and the lows. You get the emotions that you go through with your team, and
I
it's
don't
just
know if you saw, like over the weekend, again, it's on the other side of the world, but both Scotland and Ireland qualified for the World Cup, and the whole nation, like when the goal went in, just exploded. So you have all these scenes at all these pubs all across the United Kingdom, right, with these two places, Scotland and Ireland, like scoring last-minute goals to go in. Like, you don't have that drama anywhere else in entertainment. Even, reality TV doesn't create that level.
It being almost like a reality TV show, because when we produce TV and radio broadcasts for sports, you go into it with a storyline.
Yeah.
So even if, it's a blowout game, you always go back to, oh, well, so-and-so, he grew up in a single-parent household, and now look at him, and you basically weave the human element.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, here's the score.
Like all these Vegas kids who go to UH, right? Like, what a cool story, right, of the connections between our two locales are all these kids who represent that bridge, right? And so if, one team or the other is blowing them out over, at the football game, UH and UNLV, you could talk about these very human stories like you were saying.
Right.
Yeah, you are representing both, though, for some of our listeners that might be tuning in, that Dr. Bernard is representing UNLV on your phone.
Yeah.
I see some UNLV
I got UNLV
stickers.
stuff. I got the UH
I
hat.
see some red in there. And yes, you have some UH hat on, though. So we got both things going. So he could be cheering for the Bernard, again, a professor of sociology and hospitality at UNLV. When we come back, I kind of want to ask you about those programs a little bit more. And we've been talking about, and you asking about your expertise in gaming and economic development. So we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera. Live from the 9th Island on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760. And streaming live on hawaiisportsradio.com.
Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino, and joined by Dr. Bo Bernard, a UNLV professor in sociology and hospitality and a gaming and economic development expert and tourism expert, essentially. But I want to kind of talk a little bit more about that study portion at UNLV. Let's go back to you, though. I mean, you do have both degrees in sociology and psychology, and then got your PhD here at UNLV.
Yeah.
So if we can just go back in time a little bit and share a little bit more about your educational background and really what made you choose to study both subjects and get your degree there, and then come back here and get your PhD at UNLV.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Yeah, so, if there's anybody listening who's thinking about university life, like, the cool thing about universities is it's a totally different pace than it is in high school, right? Like, the pace of things is totally different. So like the university life, right? Like, you have to choose a major and then you end up focusing on that. And I started with thinking about, okay, like from the skin inward, I'm going to understand everything. Good combination of these two. And then I did this paper on what's it like to grow up in the shadows of a tourism industry, which turned into a doctoral dissertation, which I came back home to UNLV to get because it was the best place in the world to study, the convergence of tourism, sports, entertainment, gaming, all of these elements that now have exploded. So again, I feel really, really lucky because I just grabbed this wave and have been riding it. But I was also really lucky that UNLV, I believe, is the best place on the planet to study those things. So if you're like me and you think the next 50 years is only going to see more tourism, more sports, more entertainment, and I don't see how you can predict it any other way, UNLV is a dream school for the fun economy, right? For the tourism, sports, entertainment nexus, where all this comes together and blends. And you get a chance with our students to graduate from UNLV's hospitality program. You have to have 1,000 hours out in the real world. So we are not one of those places where you just get like an isolated ivory tower education that's just in the classroom. We're like, you're going to go to a place like Circa and you're going to work there, right? And you're going to, on day one of your real world job, have tons of real experience in the industry. So again, whether it's food and beverage, which of course is a massive global industry, or conventions, or hotels, or the airline industry, or the gaming industry, or the sports industry, or the music and live entertainment industry, these are all industries that you can study with both classroom expertise with lots of fun people like Michelle Coyner, who you had before, but then also real world expertise where you get to see, okay, we're building this thing called the Sphere, and we're going to put, U2 in there, and the Eagles in there, and the Grateful Dead in there, and the Backstreet Boys in there, and create experiences that are unlike any other on earth. And there's really one university where, and I just had the best education. I loved Harvard. It was a great place filled with smart people, but my education really happened at UNLV.
Oh, we love that. And we were talking to Dr. Coyner earlier about how with her the part that she is in charge of is relatively new to UNLV. She talked about how the class sizes exploded from just like 4 to 6 students in a class to now over 30, and how she joked that, I kind of missed when it was like smaller, but now you have such a massive class. But she also mentioned how the sports side works so closely with the hospitality side that has been at UNLV for a long time. We joked, and we can take a little jab at Cornell, that that's kind of the other top hospitality program in the country, but UNLV, since we'll be biased towards UNLV ever.
It is. It really
but
is.
If you can share a little bit more about how that sports...
Just a few years ago with 4 to 6 students, and they were great students. But we've just seen an explosion of interest because, again, we have a fantastic campus and a fantastic... that came to us from the University of South Carolina. And that's one of the universities that does blend sports into hospitality. So the sports management field was blended in with the hospitality program that he came from. So when he came here, it was just natural to start to think about ways in which we can bring this all together. And so that was one of the things I really enjoyed about my UNLV classes was I could take a class in a law school on like the law of gambling legalization. I could take a class over in history on the history of gambling. I could take a sociology class. I could take a business class and really piece together this amazing kind of multidisciplinary educational experience. And that's the idea behind blending the sports management and sports leadership worlds with our hospitality college over on campus here not too far from us.
There's a history of gambling.
There
class.
is. There's
I feel like I need to
sign
go.
me up.
I need
That
to go
class
back
is
to
awesome,
school.
right? Because like, yeah, like cave people playing with like literally like rolling bones, right? Like I mean that's where the dice
That's
phrase
what the
comes
Hawaiians
from,
were
right?
doing.
Well,
right?
that's interesting because in the Hawaiian culture, they would actually gamble, high stakes like for land and
Yeah.
even,
There,
yeah.
the history of gambling is the history of humanity and vice versa. And I actually teach a class where we visit about 80 different cultures and communities and look at the unique relationship they have with the gambling act, because everybody's different, right? Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's some places where there's like a death penalty for gambling, and there are other places where it's just open season, right? And all points in between. Every culture gambles a little differently, and the games are different, and the history of their games is a really interesting way to look at people, right? So if you want to understand a people, understand their games, understand how they play.
I think that's the interesting part about when we talk about back home in Hawaii and why gambling is so beloved and prevalent there, even though
Yeah.
it's not technically
Right.
legal. Why people would come to Las Vegas for so long is partially because of the Asian countries that are very much
Yeah.
gamblers, right?
Yeah.
There is like, it comes on over all the card games, table games, everything, and then we have like the Filipino chicken fighting and everything like that.
Right,
But
right.
it's just ingrained
It's
into
ingrained,
the
yeah.
culture back home. And as Kyle just mentioned, in the Hawaiian culture, they're gambling for land and everything
Yeah.
like that. So how is it for you?
Yeah, and as Kyle was mentioning earlier about, like, again, time, and there are cultural, even religious reasons why. It's not as if they don't gamble. They go across the border to places like Cambodia and Vietnam and Singapore, right? And even within the Thailand country limits, they do so as well. But they're thinking very seriously, much like Hawaii is. Look, we've got this already beloved tourism industry. People love Thailand. People who go to Thailand are like, that is my place. That is like a beloved place for much the same reason people fall in love with Hawaii. But they're like, but we're a little bit stagnant here. We're a little bit stagnant. And our tourism numbers in Thailand have been stagnant. So we were working with the Prime Minister of Thailand, because again, it's like this nerdy bat signal goes up to UNLV and we like fly out, right? Oh, bat signal, right? And we go to Thailand and talk with the Thai Prime Minister about the next 50 years of tourism policy, the next 50 years of, again, building roller coasters at your amusement park that ensure that the tourism economy doesn't become stagnant and you don't get left behind in these next 50 years of an exploding middle class. I mentioned earlier, 35 million people just this year, just in India, will go from poor to the middle class. I'm lucky to fall into this field where we get to answer those interesting questions.
So following up on that, if you were in front of the legislature right now, or the governor or policymakers, I know there's actually a heavy Vegas lobby that basically influences Hawaii not to bring gambling, because so many Hawaiians come here to gamble. But if Hawaii was making strides to legalize gambling, what is like a starter kit if you were to present that to Hawaii?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because we actually have a starter kit, right? We've done this for so many jurisdictions, and I'll just, before I answer the question, we did this with Boston. Boston's a city that's crazy. It's in the middle of, I would have said, not in a million years. But we worked with them to say, not so much you need to legalize or you don't, so much as what we say at UNLV is, here's all the data, here's all the information for you to make the best decision for the Boston people, right? And we did that recently in UAE with the United Arab Emirates, which is also building one of these mega resorts, right? And they realized that UNLV's hotel school could possibly play an educational role, right? We did the same thing in Singapore when Singapore legalized and transformed that entire economy. And so what I would say is, it's up to you, right? You get to decide for the Hawaiian people what's the best path forward, right? What we can do is provide you with the best information and make the best decision. It's kind of like making the best college decision, right? You don't want to just make a college decision where you're like, oh, I like orange, I'm going to the University of Tennessee, right? No, you want to make a decision based on the best possible, most current information on the University of Tennessee or the University of Hawaii or anything else, right? And that's what we can provide, right, is to come in and say, what are you concerned about, right? You can crime, right? One of the things that we talked about in the Rapist City. There's 32 teams in the NFL, right? But people didn't think of it that way. They're like, oh, it's going to be right. Well, it's like, yeah, let's actually make these decisions based on data, not based on perception and popular myth. And people think about movies like Casino and movies like Bugsy and movies like Leaving Las Vegas. And those are awesome movies.
Yeah.
They're just not historical documentaries, right?
Right.
They're not things that reflect what we can reflect, which is all of the kind of data on all of the questions that people in Hawaii or any place else have.
That's awesome. I love that you mentioned that because that's true. I've never even thought of it that way, where you're bringing the Raiders from Oakland to Las Vegas, where it is very, very safe because there's a lot of security everywhere. There's cameras everywhere at all these casinos. Like pretty much every turn, there's some type of security in Las Vegas to make it safe for all the tourists that come in here for whatever reason they choose to come. As we're joined by Dr. Bo Bernard, a UNLV professor for sociology and hospitality, but also a gaming and economic development expert. We're going to continue our conversation. Fortunate that you can still continue to hang out with us. If you guys want to text in and have any questions, do you mind if they ask questions?
Yeah.
But whatever reason about UNLV and any of the things that he is an expert at, feel free to text us at 808-888-KG1. That's 808-888-5481, or you can chime in on the live chat as well. But we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with
Ku'ulei Agbayani on the This is Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani and Kyle Galdera, live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino.
Ku'ulei Agbayani, Kyle Galdera, live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino. Hello, everybody, for tuning in either on radio or if you're going to listen back on demand. We encourage you guys to do so if you missed any part of our almost 3-hour show today, because earlier today from UNLV, we had Dr. Michelle Coyner, who is an assistant professor in residence in UNLV's Intercollegiate and Professional Sports Management program and serves as the director for the undergraduate certificate in sport leadership and management. So for, I know, a lot of young people, so if you're interested in studying that at UNLV, that's one option. Right now, though, we are joined by Dr. Bo Bernard, a professor in sociology and hospitality at UNLV, but also a gaming and economic development expert. And we appreciate your time, because I need to mention this because you're, when I looked at your bio in the directory about you delivered over 300 keynote speaking or keynote addresses, but it says, it describes you as a highly sought after speaker. People planning to make the trip out here for the big football game that's happening Friday night. UNLV and the Rainbow Warriors of the University of Hawaii at Allegiant Stadium, home of the Las Vegas Raiders, that we talked about the story that you had a hand in getting them to come here and moving from Oakland. But I want to you told us a little bit during the break there on sharing a little bit about was it a Blackstone?
Blackfire.
Yeah. I was like, not Blackstone, Blackfire. That is the stone here in Las Vegas.
So we started, and I was lucky enough to to get to oversee for about 5 years a campus called Blackfire. Blackfire is the name of Nevada's gemstone. The Blackfire opal is the official state rock, and it's a cool name. And the rock itself actually is UNLV colors. It's like got a red stripe through like a black and silver. It's really cool. And it's a cool name. So the students loved it because it is not only a cool name, Blackfire Innovation, it's a place where their ideas can go to become innovations, to become inventions, to become patents, and even to become companies. So it all started actually in the gaming side, at least, with a crazy class that we introduced where the final exam, there's no paper, no test. The final exam was invent a gambling game that the world's never seen before, which is actually really hard when you think about it, because the math is hard, right? And because, you know, you have to build a game where people actually lose more often than they win, or at least the money ends up more in the house. And it's hard to make a fun game where people lose a lot, right? But it's also massively complex, like from a STEM perspective, like right from the science, technology, engineering, math perspective. Long story short, immediately almost, it got popular. Gail King and CBS News This Morning came out because they were like so impressed with these kids, like coming up with these games. One young woman from Vietnam had watched her mom play this tile game, and she invented a whole gambling game around it. Another gentleman was from South Central LA and really loved dominoes and created a domino gambling game. We now have 27 games that have made it out in the class, like paying for the tuition for a class and losing money, or at least paying money, right? It's the one class in the world where you actually can make money off of going to that class and inventing a gambling game that takes over. So our first idea was, what if we could do that with the hotel and with the restaurant and with not just the casino, but all the different fun places to play, right? And so that expanded, dedicated to providing students with a way to sort of scratch their entrepreneurial itch. If you've got an idea, even just an idea, right, we can help turn it into a company, turn that into a better company, and we've seen a lot of really cool, we have over 100 companies out there on a UNLV campus that have all, you know, built this beautiful relationship with our UNLV ecosystem.
So what are some of the factors? I know you talked about building a game, building casinos and hotels, but I know a lot of attention to detail is paid to, like, the smell when you walk in, the certain sounds and the colors. How much of that psychological aspect goes into what you're trying to build with your students and even some of the companies that you work with?
Yeah, a lot of it's just, again, like Derek Stevens does here. I think Derek Stevens is like a Walt Disney kind of guy, right? Where he just thinks of stuff that became the architect of Easy Jack, which is now featured in casinos in Florida, right? At the Hard Rock casinos and the Seminoles run in Florida. It's amazing how many stories there are like that, and it really reveals how creative our young people are, right? Like, when you look at the history of inventions, actually, and you look at the ages when, like, famous people invented, they typically are pretty young, right? Or a lot of them are pretty young, where, you know, again, we think of folks as really needing a ton more experience before they come up with their big idea. But like Zuckerberg invented Facebook at Harvard, right?
Look at Facebook.
I mean, and you know, we if we aren't giving our kids an opportunity to exercise that muscle or to scratch that itch, or supporting them in their pursuit of their own business, shame on us, right? Because again, this is a powerful moment where, frankly, you can fail and it's not going to ruin your life, right? If you like, you have a startup at age 20 and it goes under, you're all right, right? Whereas if, you know, later on in life, it can be a little riskier because you got kids and you got, right? So anyways, we've provided this whole campus now. It's kind of a second campus of 120 acres out in the southwest part of the valley, for students and the broader business community to work together on things like that. So we have like a restaurant of the future. Some of our kids, because you know, UNLV is a desert and it's been raining, but usually it doesn't. You know, we worry about water here. So our students invented this into perfectly round white pellets. They're about that big. They're like a millimeter round, right? Those then go into a different part of the machine where they get pressed into a brand new bed sheet that's totally sterilized because the heat kills everything. No chemicals, no laundry, no like, you know, no soap, and provides an even cleaner one with no water. And for a kid who grew up in Vegas, it's not like Hawaii, right? Where you get a lot of rain, you get a lot, right? You're not worrying about this. Here we're in the desert, man. We're worried about that. So we turn these kids who grew up in Las Vegas loose, saying, okay, how would you solve these big problems of your community? And they have ideas, man. It's amazing to see. Like, the next generation is awesome. Anybody who's like, oh, we're doomed because the kids these days are all hooked on their computers and they're right. No, they're awesome. they're awesome, and they have such great ideas, and Blackfire is a place where we allow them to exercise that muscle.
That is so cool. And again, we're joined by Dr. Bo Bernardi, UNLV professor of sociology and hospitality. And again, we did have someone said asking, are you coming to Honolulu? That do you have a particular favorite sport or maybe a favorite sports team, considering that Las Vegas doesn't traditionally have professional sports, as we know, but was there a team growing up that you would cheer for, or maybe you still cheer for now?
Yeah, you know what's funny is growing up in Vegas, you didn't have the team, so you just kind of picked up whatever team was good at the time, and LA is almost like a next door neighbor, right? So most of us pick up the LA teams. So I'm a big baseball guy, grew up playing baseball, fell asleep every night to Vin Scully, the famous announcer for the Dodgers, on my radio. That was like soothing to me, like hearing the great old man just tell the stories, right? And we were talking earlier about how even if the game's boring, like the announcers that can tell the stories of the people or so, and Vin Scully was so good at that. So I fell in love with the Dodgers. The Dodgers, of course, just won their second straight title. And so I've always been a Dodger guy. But because I was also a soccer guy, and because after college I went and chased the ball around a little bit in Europe, I fell in love with European soccer, which is like intense. Like if you haven't gone to a game, like it is like it's like a religion, right? Plus a life or death situation, plus 80,000 people screaming and singing and dancing, and it's just unbelievable. And I got hooked on that. So I'm a massive Arsenal fan in London. That's my team in Europe, and I wake up at like 4 in the morning to watch their games because I love it so much. But yeah, I'm baseball and soccer. I played my whole life. I fell in love with both.
Dr. Coyner earlier, but being that your family has been here for generations, so similar to Hawaii, for a long time your professional football team was the Rebels, but they don't exactly have the best track record of being very competitive in football here. But the last few years has been pretty awesome. So how have you seen that benefit here, like the people of Las Vegas, and just see them be successful now and continuing that success even under a new head coach right now?
And I love all sports. Like I love, and for a long time we weren't good at football. And I keep telling people nowadays, like, it's kind of disorienting to be good at football. We're confused. Like, we don't know what to do because we just haven't had a good UNLV team, and now we do, right? And, of course, it correlates with the arrival of Allegiant Stadium, right, and the arrival of an amazing practice facility, which when the Super Bowl was here, they have to have equal quality practice facilities for both teams. So one of the teams went to the Raiders practice facility, the other went to UNLV's, which we've upgraded in a way that it is equivalent of an NFL practice facility now, right? And so that transformation has just been so dramatic, right? And having that football stadium to show to people who are thinking about coming to UNLV to play football, having that practice facility has just made all the difference. And so, there's nothing like football from a development perspective and a fundraising perspective, but just also from a, like nowadays, there's almost nothing you can talk about without it getting political or getting, people getting angry. But sports are the one thing you can turn around to the person behind you and start to connect with them on pretty much in our entire world, right? It's a powerful uniter, and I feel like UNLV football has done that now for our campus in a way that we really didn't have for the whole time I've been there, right? It's amazing how good they've gotten and how fun it is to be at UNLV football games now.
I'm glad you said that, and I want to kind of pick up a thought that I was just thinking, but we do need to take our final break of the show, so we're going to do that as we're joined by Dr. Bo Bernard, a professor for hospitality and sociology at UNLV and a gaming and economic development expert. So when we come back, we'll have about hang out with us, like you said.
Yeah.
Well, you get to hang out in a cabana here at Stadium Swim, so it's a pretty good day. And then in no time, you're going to be off to Hawaii.
That's right. Hey, life is good. Life is good.
I was going to say, tough life, like how I joke about our friend Dan Rush that's on the show tomorrow, like tough life being around sports all the time. But we'll be right back to close it out here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
This is Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani and Kyle Galdera, live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino.
Agbayani, Kyle Galdera, and Dr. Bo Bernard taking a lot of time to join us on this show. And again, I'm so happy that we went to 3 hours because we just had this full show of our guests from UNLV. Again, earlier, Dr. Michelle Coyner joined us to talk about all the sports program offerings that you can go into different, or talking about with the football. It adds to competitive and keep up with the landscape, because that is a point that I made where sometimes, like, if they're not familiar with sports, which some of the committee weren't, they don't understand that there is kind of like this thing that you can't measure, where it's just how people feel back home when you have a successful, especially football program. When the football team is winning at the University of Hawaii, you just can't measure how much better people just feel. They walk around taller and higher. Yeah, like you said, you go to the store and be like, did you see that football game? Yeah. Like, and everyone is just talking about it and how much it adds to that. So I'm glad that you brought that up, where that's what you guys are seeing at UNLV with the football team finally being good. I think prior to a few years ago, it was like the first winning season since like the 80s at UNLV. So I think that's pretty cool.
In a world where, again, politics aside, I think we'd all agree it feels more and more divisive. One of the reasons we love sports is that it's one of the things that unites us, right? It's one of the very few things that has that potential. And again, in a way that folks across the socioeconomic spectrum, across the political spectrum, you name the spectrum, right? Across it, there are people who really connects you. So I mentioned earlier, I'm an Arsenal fan. All
right. We just have about 5 more minutes left of the show. You mentioned a book during the break, so you can tell us a little bit about that.
So working on a fun economy book, looking at the way in which tourism and sports and entertainment today in 2025 and moving forward are exploding and combining and converging in a way that's happening in Cape Town, South Africa. It's happening in Sydney, Australia. It's happening in Tokyo, Japan. And it's happening in Honolulu, and it's happening in Vegas. And how, we think about our great-great-grandparents, right? Like, they had a hard life where they didn't get to travel much. They didn't get to go to games. They didn't get to go to Taylor Swift concerts, right? And, we have a lot of hard things in life these days. But we definitely have more access to more things in the experience-driven fun economy. And that's an undeniably good thing, right? And travel's a good thing, right? Like Mark Twain had a great line where travel is fatal to ignorance, prejudice, and bigotry. It's a great line, right? And when you think about the gift that Hawaii gives to people, right, where so many people love it so much, that's no small thing on this planet Earth, man, this little marble that we all live on, right? Of that beautiful, beautiful realization of, like, really good at.
You mentioned you had a suggestion.
You got a title.
So I know you mentioned Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking back to Bo's autobiography, Bo Knows Bo, right?
Yes.
With the shoulder pads and
right,
the bat.
the bat.
So maybe it could be you with the Vegas skyline. Bo Knows Fun.
I think I should not have a shirt off, though. He had his shirt off in that.
Right.
Like, he's jacked, right? As a 50-year-old professor, I'm not going to do that. I love that, though, Kyle. That's awesome, man. Thank you. I'll throw you a little love in the acknowledgement section.
All right. That'll be a great opportunity.
I love that.
All right, a few minutes left on the show, and the main reason why Kyle and I are here and a lot of people are flying in is because of that massive game on Friday. I know there's kind of like a minor other event going on, Formula One and whatever.
Yeah, what is that?
The main thing,
the big draw.
The big thing happening this week is Friday's major Mountain West football matchup between UNLV, the home team, and the visiting University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. So, Dr. Bernard, what is kind of your early prediction for Friday?
This is a fun year because both teams are good, right? And both teams have fun offenses, right? Like we were talking about how Tim Chang is like this legendary QB who just clearly loves offense and can move the ball. He's the same way. Here's what I predict. It'll be a shootout. Like it's going to be like a fun football game, right? And college football's changed some of the rules and stuff too to make it like more offensive. If it's anything like UNLV's games this year, it's going to come down to the last second, and both teams are just going to kind of score at will until that point, right? So take the over.
Glad to hear.
Take the over.
So before you got here, I actually put my wager in on the over, and it ticked up from 64.5 to 65.
Oh, wow.
Right after I
There's
did
that
it.
sharp
So
money there.
You got the
I
good
think
money.
we're on the right
Yeah.
track.
They're like, Kyle bet that, so we better move our number.
yeah.
He's the smart guy.
Especially here at Circa. Speaking of, we want to make sure we give them a plug before we head out today. And being a relatively new property, the newest downtown property built from the ground up, what is just been about a minute or so that you can share and how fascinating it's been to see this project come to life?
I said earlier, Derek Stevens is a Walt Disney, and he has taken the best things of fun building in Las Vegas that comes out of the brain of an Imagineer. And so, yeah, if you've not been here, come out to Stadium Swim. There's no facility like this one, the one we're at right now. But again, you can see it throughout the whole property. Tons of detail, and he's just done a great job creating a fun ride here at the amusement park that is Las Vegas.
The amusement park that is Las Vegas. All right, final question for you is just will it be okay if we put your email out there for people that want to reach out and have questions?
I'll be in Oahu next week. So yeah,
do that. Maybe have some questions and come
Some
in
politicians maybe that need some education.
We can maybe make that happen for you when you're in vacation mode right now, but when you're back into work mode, we can maybe make that happen. So thank you again, Dr. Bernard, for joining us today, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Dr. Coyner earlier today as well. It's been a really, really fun show, and we're happy to do it 2 more times. So, again, thank you guys for tuning in. We are live from Stadium Swim at Circa Resort and Casino. Tomorrow night, come party with us here at Circa at Legacy Club at 7, and then downstairs at Overhang Bar at 8:30. We got to go. Kyle Galdera, Kule Agbayani, Paul Brecht in studio. Bye!